What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we are finally diving into the Gundam side story, Space to the End of a Flash. This time, we will learn about the 16th Autonomous Corps, who focuses their attention on the moon, while Revel pushes towards Zeon's homeland. We will learn about Luce and Ford, two new Gundam pilots, and we will see a new Pegasus-class ship. So let's get into this. December 2nd, UC 0079. The Federation has pushed Zeon back into space. White Base heads into space before Revel's fleet. However, a smaller unit launched behind the main fleet. This is the 16th Autonomous Unit, consisting of two Salamis-class ships and the new Thoroughbred. Ford Roundfellow is piloting Gundam Unit 5, and Luce Cassell is piloting Unit 4. The RX-78-5 Gundam Unit 5, also known as G5, is the successor to the Gundam, which focuses on space combat. This unit has an upgraded backpack and enhanced thrusters. Operating time was also extended. Its main weapon is the heavy Gatling gun, used to support G4 during cooldown. This unit has the magnetic coating. Weapons include the XBRM-79H2 Hyper Beam Rifle, 60mm Vulcans, a beam saber, a hand beam gun, a hyper bazooka, and a shield. G5 doesn't have the core block system. The RX-78-4 Gundam Unit 4, also known as G4, is also the successor to the Gundam and is very similar to G5. It doesn't have a core block system and has the same backpack and booster enhancements. However, this has a bigger generator on the backpack to compensate for the power needed for the Mega Beam Cannon. It also has additional cooling. Weapons include 60mm Vulcans, a beam saber, a hand beam gun, the XBR-M79H2 Hyper Beam Rifle, a hyper bazooka, and a shield. This too has magnetic coating. They end the mock battle. The mobile suit operator is Miyu Takazawa. She tells the two to return to the ship. The captain of the ship is Lombard Kilstein. He should retire, but has been inspired to continue on after his son died at the Battle of Loon. This was originally a testing unit for Augusta Labs, but has shifted to active combat. Their mechanic is Private First Class Annie Brevik. She is mad that Ford is putting too much strain on the vernier thrusters and use the AMBAC at 100%. Ford, the G5 pilot, says, "Yeah, but I killed the enemies." Luce wasn't as rough as he was. Luce is more experienced, but he says that Ford has something that he doesn't. A hairline that isn't receding? Miyu tells them of the briefing. The captain tells them of Operation Symbolo. Remember, the Fetty Fleet's goal is to push towards the L2. After the solar ray was fired, it run this operation. They tricked Zeon Fleet into thinking they were heading to Granada and the homeland, when in reality they were heading towards Abawaku. That is when the plan changed up and they began Operation Star 1. Unlike Revel, Joaquin, and Bright, this team is focusing on stealth. They are putting a lot of faith into the two Gundam pilots. Maybe too much for how sloppy Ford has proven himself so far. Even in the next scene, we see Ford getting high scores in the simulator, but he sees this all as a game. The red alert goes up. A scouting fleet is approaching, and they can't reveal their location. Minovsky particles are at combat levels. They also have a gun cannon team that launches ahead of the Gundams. Since this is their first battle, Miyu doesn't say take care of the unit. She tells them to come back alive. The Salamis ships are carrying public-class ships as well. They move in on the Zeon fleet. They take out a few Zakus, followed by one Musai. The Thoroughbred does a long-range bombardment. The Gundams take out the bridge of the final Musai, eliminating the target. Their maiden battle was a success. Even though they won, the captain is frustrated with the two's skills. The two pilots need to focus on cornering fleet ships. The two wonder what is the ETA on their special weapon set. The G4's Mega Beam Cannon is unstable, but G5's giant Gatling gun is good to go. The Gatling gun is designed to cover G4 during the Mega Beam Rifle's cooldown. Captain Kilstein gives the two a lesson about how German U-boats were a menace during World War II. Be more like the U-boat. Ford says, "Hey, are you calling me a boat? I think this guy is dumb." They need to learn to sneak up on their opponent. Meanwhile, at Granada, Jake Guns and May Cowan barely escaped Earth. Oh my god, I completely forgot about the Lost Chronicles until this moment. I should probably finish that. They're struggling to find a ship as many have fled Earth. May believes that she might have some family on the moon. They notice a strange-looking Zaku. This is the Act Zaku. The MS-11 Act Zaku was a part of the Pazoon Project, a top-secret project during the One-Year War. This has magnetic coating and has an improved generator output. It was supposed to come out before the Gelgoog, but it was delayed, hence the MS-11 designation. EFF got more life out of these mobile suits after the war than Zeon. This also helped EFF eventually build the Hyzak. Weapons include a bulb-up gun, a custom beam rifle, the same rifle used by the Hyzak, a 120mm machine gun, a giant bazooka, a large heat hawk, a shield, and much more. Jake could tell that this has magnetic coating just by looking at it. An officer comes over and calls Jake trash for abandoning Earth. A man named Jasto comes over. He seems to know May. Jasto tells him that that man is Mallet Sanguine. He's a dick. He mentions the Akzaku was brought over from Pazoon specifically for him. This is before EFF inevitably takes control of the asteroid. The red alert goes off on the Thoroughbred. Ford treats the gun cannon team as pawns and doesn't respect teamwork. One Chevet and two Musais are approaching. Ford equips the Gatling gun and launches. Zeon launches some Rickdom Zwei's. Ford distracts them as they waste their bazooka ammo, while Luce attacks with his beam saber. More move in and Ford unleashes his Gatling gun. The gun cannon attacks the Musais. They pull back so the Thoroughbred can bombard them. Ford and Luce handle cleanup. Miyu is amazed by the power of G5. December 24th. The Battle of Solomon begins. While this is happening, the 16th Autonomous Corps is to take down any reinforcements coming from Granada. In Granada, Jake and May find a ship back to Side 3. They are on the same ship as Mallet Sanguine. Mallet's team is planning on sending reinforcements to help Dozel at Solomon. Mallet mirrors Ford's attitude in many ways. Luce thinks that Ford's recklessness is going to get him killed one day. He tells Annie that they all came from Augusta on Earth. They ran many simulations and got into fights with other comrades. They were eventually sent to Jaburo, followed by the 16th, and came to space. The Thoroughbred preps for an assault. A Musai launches Mallet's Act Zaku along with some Rickdoms and Zakus. Luce wants to use the Hyper Mega Launcher, but it still isn't ready. The captain gives him permission to use it, even though it is a gamble. The two Gundams launch. Ford fires at the Act Zaku, but the magnetic coating allows him to dodge the attack. The gun cannons move in, and they tell Ford to watch Luce's back. One Dom rocks two bazookas and aims at Luce, but Ford destroys the unit just in time. Luce takes aim and fires, taking out a Chevet. The output of the beam rifle still sucks, and it couldn't take out the entire fleet. They're going to have to pull back. Zeon just lost their flagship, and they retreated back to Granada. The Thoroughbred needs supplies, but the ship must remain in the sector. The Gundam pilots will head out on a supply mission with Miyu acting as commander. The team is heading to Von Braun. They dock as a civilian ship not to be seen by Zeon. Anaheim Electronics is providing the supplies for the team. They have to be on the lookout for Zeon's spies. The head of AE currently is Tracy Lamore. She was Luce's instructor when he was a Saberfish pilot. She looks at Ford and says, "Who's this prick?" While they transfer supplies, Mallet's team is scouting. Outside of Von Braun, they detected a suspicious shuttle docking, and they are ordered to check it out. They spot shuttles moving out, and Mallet instantly fires. They didn't even inspect their ships before firing. Luce and Ford launch in the Gundam. This is the first time Ford has experienced combat on the moon. Ford draws the enemy away from the ship, but the heaviness of the moon gravity is messing with him. Ford and Mallet begin a melee assault, but for the first time, Ford fears death. He returns to the ship, but one takes a big hit. They were able to retreat. Miyu notes that they are great when the two of them actually work as a team. Luce wants the war to end because he promised he wouldn't smoke until then, and he really wants to smoke. Tracy sends a lasercom message that there is word that Revel and Degwin may be seeking peace, and the war may be ending soon, but to watch out for enemy forces coming from Granada. She tells them not to be a hero this late in the game. The Granada fleet is going to expose themselves to the Fetties by luring them into a debris field. Mallet and his team are to attack once they fall for the trap. The commander asks about the new mobile armor. Mallet thinks that his Akzaku can handle it. The commander calls him arrogant. Mallet also thinks that new types are Federation propaganda and that Caecilia is wasting her resources. He laughs at the new type mobile armor team. They all launch. The Thoroughbred preps for battle. Luce wants to use the Mega Beam Cannon once again. Miyu is against it, but Kilstein allows it once more. Luce tells Ford not to lose his cool. They're going to head into the debris field and fire the beam cannon before pulling back. Gun cannons will defend the ship. Bro, is that a brow? Is that a brow, bro? Mallet goes for Ford while the new types handle the rest. Luce readies the Mega Beam launcher. Mallet ambushes Ford. He warns Luce. The captain realizes they lured them in. Ford moves towards G4 and fires his Gatling gun. The Brow Bro moves in on them and surround the two Gundams with their wired particle gun bits. Ford runs distraction for Luce. He dodges the bits and attacks the Brow Bro. But remember, the Brow Bro is modular and separates and retreats. Luce charges his cannon. The Akzaku chases G5. Luce reaches unstable levels. He lets it ride for a few more seconds before firing on the Chevet. Ford lured Mallet into Luce's beam path. He dodges, but he is close enough to feel that heat. That's gonna leave a burn. Luce fires again against Miyu's wishes. This causes his backpack to overheat. He needs to eject, but his hatch is jammed. G4 goes up in flames. Ford rushes towards the remains of the Gundam and brings it back to the thoroughbred. Oh, you don't want to look inside that cockpit. Luce's second shot took out the remaining fleet in the debris field. The captain looks at a picture of his dead son and thinks he made the same mistake again. Back at Granada, the new types rush a toasty Millet to the medbay. He keeps saying Gundam over and over again. His Akzaku didn't take too much damage. Yeah, metal usually handles heat better than human flesh. The war is taking a toll on everyone. Solomon is now Compay Island. Now, Zeon's supply lines to the moon are cut off, and the 16th can use Von Braun as a base of operation. I imagine Char and Kycilia have bailed from Granada to Abaoku by now. G5 is getting a new loadout. Annie and Miyu cry it out. Ford didn't go to Luce's memorial. Miyu tells him that he needs to acknowledge Luce's death. Ford is being a bitch, so Miyu smacks him and tells him to stop being a bitch. She says he is very selfish. What is this feeling? The power of friendship is coursing through my veins! He apologizes to Miyu. That was too quick. I'm not sure he learned his lesson. Garen fires the solar ray and kills Revel and Degwin. At Compay Island, Kilstein is assigned a mission to escort a Chevet. On board is Side 3's Prime Minister, Darchia Bakarov, and they are escorting him to Granada for a peace treaty. Ford feels weird working with Zeon. They begin their journey back to the moon. They begin their escort mission back to Granada. Gems and Zaku's are butting heads. Ford tries to stop them, but a Galgoog separates the two teams. This is Barst. He's tired of this war and ready for retirement. Oh, don't say that. Yesterday they were enemies, and technically still are until that treaty is signed. But now they are working together. It's hard for both sides. Ford's shift is over. On the bridge, Darcia Bakarov knows that Granada still has a fleet of 30 ships. He expects that they will be met with force. Zeon is prepared to fight against their own, if it means ending this war. He wonders if they could hold negotiation under the guise of surrender. Ford comes onto the bridge, steps out of line, and yells, "But what about Luce?" It seems like force is their best bet. It is one of those situations that's necessary, but damn, it must suck to die this late in the game. Miyu wishes Luce could see history in the making. Meanwhile, the Nord fleet preps for battle around the moon. Nord Rangel's plan is to prevent Darchia Bakarov from making it to Luna. Currently, the Battle of Abaoku is about to take place. He believes that they still have a chance to turn the tides, and it isn't time for surrender just yet. They will split into three and slowly encircle the Fetties. On the thoroughbred, Captain Kilstein recognizes that the fleet is starting to split into three. Ford preps for launch. Miyu reminds them that this will probably be their last battle. He launches and goes to town on Nord's fleet. They concentrate fire on the left side. Ford's Gatling gun is out of ammo. The mobile suits retreat while the thoroughbred does a long-range bombardment. They assume one fleet is trying to flank them. Darchia's Chevet pushes through with Ford and the mobile suits, but the fleet they assumed would flank actually pulled back to protect Granada. They saw through their plan. It looks like they will have to fight their way through. Before they engage, Nord contacts Kilstein and calls for a ceasefire. He will even allow Darchia to go to the moon. They just received word that Abaoku has fallen. Garen and Kycilia are dead, and the Zabis are no more. This war is over. They accept the ceasefire. However, Millet says to hell with that. A relief comes over everyone on the battlefield, with the exception of Millet, who tells his mechanic what's the deal with the Aksaku. He tells him that there are limiters put on the unit, but they can be disabled. Zeon and the Federation begin a joint rescue operation while Darchia heads to Granada. Millet kills a doctor after forcing him to make a banned drug that boosts awareness at the detriment of the mind. He launches against Nord's will. They have to stop him at all cost. One poor Zeon sucker goes to stop his squad, but dies immediately. Millet takes the drug. Probably should have done that earlier. Barst and his Galgoog goes in to attack the Akzaku, but he is too slow and Millet takes down Barst. Not Barst. He was one day away from retirement. Ford recognizes that this pilot is moving different than before. The two clash once again, with the limiters off and the drugs. Never forget the drugs. Millet has the advantage. Ford hears Luce in his head telling him to keep his cool, and that he's got this. A mini-coup breaks out. Millet keeps getting hits on the Gundam, but Ford can sense his movements. The Gundam shield is sliced in half. Millet moves in, but expecting an attack, Ford stabs his beam saber right into the cockpit. He was able to predict his movement. Millet goes down. Bye, Millet. You weren't the worst villain, but you're definitely close to the bottom, buddy. What remains of his squad surrenders. Their mission is complete, and they head towards the moon. January 1st, UC-0080. EFF and Zeon enter into a peace treaty. The war has come to an end, and that will conclude space to the end of a flash. But let's dive into Volume 3, which shows us something different. Ford has a dream where Luce dies in an explosion. He wakes up. It was all a dream, and Luce is still alive. Luce's Mega Beam cannon ended up not firing. Now they are concerned that their trump card is out the door. Don't get too much sleep, boys. The red alert is going up. It's time to launch. Just like before, Luce asks to launch with the Mega Beam cannon. Miyu tries to stop him, but Kilstein once again takes the risk. Luce tells Ford not to lose his cool out there. I believe Luce saying this is the branch in the timeline. This is also what Luce told him in the main timeline as a voice in Ford's head. The two launch. Ford draws the Aksaku away as Luce charges the beam cannon. Luce takes aim at the Chevet-class ship. He fires, taking out the Chevet. This time, Ford successfully lures Millet into a beam blast, killing him. He fires a second shot against Miyu's desires and begins overloading. This time, Ford is able to rush to G4 in time. He rips off the backpack generator before it explodes. Luce survives. After the battle, the team goes to Compay Island because Luce took out the team and Millet was taken down. Their job on the moon is done. In this version, they don't get assigned to escort Prime Minister Darchia. This time, they are assigned to Operation Star 1. They are heading to Abawaku. Revel's fleet is taken out by the solar ray fired by Giran. The 16th watched half their fleet go down in front of their eyes. Ford is panicking a little in the hangar, and Luce thinks it is fear. In this version, Ford never had that moment of fearing death, and since Luce is alive, he is still stubborn and cocky. Kilstein briefs the team. The 16th are going to work with the 4th team to open up a route to Zeon's homeland. I wonder if this is the immortal 4th. G4 and G5 will open up a hole while the gun cannons run support. Because he risked his life to save Luce, Ford is now liked by the gun cannon team. They respect him now for his bravery. The attack on Abawaku begins. A Dolos-class ship approaches the 16th. A Dolos, take it in, boys. You don't see that too often. This means that it is none other than Carius and Anna Velgato. Where's Kelly Leisner? Also, besides this Dolos and Caecilius Dolos, there was one called the Mindolo, which is the only other one that hasn't been shown. I bet it's from one of the games. Ford uses his Gatling gun and Dakas. Izaku almost destroys the Thoroughbred Bridge, but a gun cannon comes in to save the day. The gun cannon team fights against a red Galgoog pilot. It just so happens to be the Crimson Lightning himself, Johnny Ryden. Johnny takes out one of the gun cannons and bails. Bye, Johnny. Always good seeing you. Sucks to be that one gun cannon pilot. The gun cannon team says, wow, who is that? He is so cool. He should have his own series or something. Ford is rushing in and not staying with the team. They run into a pair of Begros, which are moving at insane speeds. I wonder if one of these Begros are Kelly. One gets an attack on Ford, but he's able to get behind one Begro and take it out. It'd be crazy if Kelly died in this timeline. Ford might have just stopped Stardust's memory from happening. The remaining Begro fires its Mega Beam cannon, taking out the Gundam's beam rifle. The mobile armor grabs the Gundam with its claws. He does what Tokuwan did to Amado, where he makes the Gundam take a bunch of G-forces to the face, trying to make him pass out. But it doesn't work, and he begins grappling with the mobile armor. The Begro begins tearing off the Gundam's limbs. But Ford is merely a distraction. Luce aims his beam cannon and fires on the mobile armor. In his last act, the Begro pilot fires his hyper beam cannon. We get a fake out where Luce thinks Ford dies, but he's fine. The Gundam is wrecked, however. His thrusters are still working, so he still wants to fight. Pass him a beam rifle. A Musai explodes and rams into the Thoroughbred. They have portside damage, but navigation is still functioning. Can't say the same for White Base. After Giran's death, Zeon's command spirals, and the Federation gets the upper hand. White Base falls. Ken Betterstadt and his team from the Lost War Chronicles is on Abawaku. He takes aim. He has the ability to get a cheap shot on Ford, but he doesn't as he realizes this war is over. Ford and Luce return to the Thoroughbred. Their mission is complete. And that will conclude Mobile Suit Gundam Space to the end of a flash. I really enjoyed this story, though the villain left much to be desired. I suppose in a video game, Mallet's strength probably shows more than this manga. I really enjoy the what if story and would like to see more. I assume the game allows for multiple endings and this mangaka's just like, screw it, let's do them all. Also, there was another chapter at the end, which followed the Nightmare of Solomon, Annabelle Gato. It simply shows him taking out a few gems, a ball, and eventually a Magellan-class ship before he returns to his ship. However, this is still a part of the what-if story. His Dolos goes down in the original, but here it survives. Now that we have finished this series, we can finally return to the Slave Wraith team. And Missing Link, we finally get to see Gundam Pixie in action once again. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, Johnny Ryden came into the story just to murder one of the side characters. What a jerk. Peace.